This guy was sitting watching the match with his girlfriend in the stands, when suddenly he felt like making a small bet for fun. Seeing a beautiful girl stand up and leave, Nikki immediately said, "Let's bet on how many guys will look after her. Can I join your game?" The couple, hearing this, didn't think much of it, agreeing right away, as it was just a fun $10 bet anyway. The beautiful girl slowly walked out of the stands. The three of them watched and counted how many people turned their heads. The final answer was 7 people. Jess guessed the closest, so she was the winner. Li Yuan happily handed over the money and suggested playing another round. This time, they bet on which team would commit a foul first. Jess, hearing bet on the ball, gave up because she knew nothing. So, she told Nikki to play against him, who knew Li Yuan played big right away, raising the bet to $1,000. Nikki also didn't hesitate, starting to count the money, but before he could finish, the referee on the field blew the whistle. Nikki guessed the fouling team correctly, so $1,000 went into his pocket. Seeing this, Li Yuan immediately demanded to raise it to $5,000, betting on whether it would be a pass or a run. Although Nikki felt he was a bit hot-headed, he didn't refuse. Li Yuan chose a run. As soon as the whistle blew, the player indeed ran with the ball. So Nikki lost a cool $5,000, meaning he won one round and lost another, essentially down $4,000. So Nikki wanted to stop, just as he was about to take Jess out for coffee. But Li Yuan had just tasted victory, so he still wanted to play more. After all, this was a VIP room, and everyone who could get in here was wealthy. A few tens of thousands of dollars was still playable for them. So, under Li Yuan's persistent pleading, Nikki agreed to play one more round. This time they bet $10,000 on whether the pass would be successful or not. Li Yuan chose a failed pass. Clearly, he won this round again. Losing $10,000 made Nikki a bit unhappy. He hesitated for 3 seconds, then spun around and said, "This time, let's play for $50,000. Hearing this, Jess was also a bit stunned. Now it was Nikki's turn to get carried away. The outcome of the match was contrary to what he had said, and $50,000 was simply given to Li Yuan. At this point, Jess stood up and advised him to leave immediately because the money was being lost too quickly. Unexpectedly, Nikki thought for a few seconds, then turned back and blurted out, $100,000. Li Yuan mocked him, saying he didn't have enough money. Who knew he was immediately slapped in the face, seeing Nikki pull out a whole stack of cash. Li Yuan not only didn't flinch, but became even more excited. This time Nikki chose an unsuccessful pass. The two looked up at the TV screen, seeing the pass was absolutely perfect. Nikki was too hot-headed now, deciding to go all in for $1.1 million. He took the poker deck next to him, intending to compare cards for a decisive win or loss. Li Yuan was on a winning streak. To him, Nikki was no different from an ATM at this point. So, without a moment's hesitation, he pulled out $1.1 million. Li Yuan flipped over a 5 of hearts. Nikki just needed to flip a card higher than 5 to win. This probability was already very high. Thinking he had victory in his hands, Nikki confidently flipped his card. Who knew it would be a 3? Jess, seeing it, plopped onto the ground, while Nikki was speechless. He had originally only intended to lose $4,000 for fun, but now he was down over $1 million. Nikki had no choice but to helplessly pull Jess away. Who knew Li Yuan still wanted to twist the knife? "I'm sorry, my friend. That's what happens when you play with a master." Hearing this, Nikki immediately turned back and said to him, "Let's play another $2 million round. Do you dare?" He told Li Yuan to randomly pick a player on the field using binoculars. As long as he guessed the player's jersey number correctly, he would win. Hearing this, Li Yuan was also dumbfounded. "Isn't this just giving away money? Do you really think I'm a mind reader?" Just as he was hesitating, wondering if Nikki was cheating, Nikki said, "This time, let Jess guess." Jess, hearing this, was utterly stunned. Li Yuan was overjoyed. Someone's offering money anyway, why not take it? Having said that, he picked up the binoculars and chose a player. But Jess got furious. She completely didn't understand what Nikki was planning, saying it would be a miracle to guess correctly. As she was about to leave, she was stopped by security, and then a dispute occurred between the two sides. After a while of commotion, Jess also calmed down. Nikki said to Jess, "Just pick a number based on your feeling, don't worry about anything else." Li Yuan quickly found the next target, and it was Jess's turn to guess. Having reached this point, Jess picked up the binoculars and started searching the field. With so many jersey numbers, how could she guess correctly? What did Li Yuan like? How old was he? She was completely clueless. Wasn't this just a wild guess? As Jess was searching everywhere, she suddenly saw a familiar figure. Farhad, wearing jersey number 55, was her friend. He wasn't a player, so how did he get mixed in here? Although a bit surprised, Jess clearly knew this was a trap. Number 55. No. No way. Unbelievable. How did you do that? I guessed correctly. That's right, you guessed correctly. Jess couldn't react in time for a moment, feeling as if she was dreaming. Even if her friend was wearing jersey number 55, how could Nikki be sure that Li Yuan would pick exactly number 55? But oh well, that wasn't important anymore. This round not only recovered their capital, but also won them an additional $1 million. The two of them excitedly carried 2 bags of cash, leaving the stadium content. Once in the car, Nikki explained it to Jess. In reality, they had been tracking this rich guy for a long time. Li Yuan was famous in high society as a gambling addict. He wanted to play any game. Therefore, Nikki had the whole team plan in advance. Knowing he would go to watch the match today, Nikki's team began manipulating his subconscious from the moment he stepped out of the hotel. There was the number 55 on a billboard. The security guard's lapel pin when he left the hotel was also number 55. Closer to the stadium, the roadside signs were all number 55. They even intentionally showed him a photo of Farhad beforehand. Besides visual manipulation, there was also auditory implantation. Nikki had his teammates choose a song called New in advance. In this song, the sound WKU, which sounds similar to 55 in Chinese, is pronounced 124 times. Being subtly influenced in this way, coupled with having already won over $1 million, Li Yuan almost acted on instinct, believing it was his lucky number. Jess knew absolutely nothing about this, so all her expressions were genuine reactions, never causing suspicion from beginning to end. After Nikki finished explaining, Jess thought he was truly amazing. But little did she know that she was the one who had been planned for the longest. A few days earlier, Nikki was pinned down on a bed by a man with a gun pointed at his head. Sitting next to him was just Jess, whom he had just met. Clearly, Nikki was being set up, but he didn't flinch at all. He flat out said he didn't have a single penny, and if they wanted to shoot, they should just shoot. The guy, hearing this, immediately knew he had met a master. In fact, he guessed correctly. Nikki had been playing these cheap cons for a long time. The reason he played this role was because he had noticed Jess's talent. At this moment, Jess still didn't understand what was happening. Seeing that he couldn't extract any money from Nikki, the guy had no choice but to leave and look for another target, who knew Nikki would follow her. He told Jess directly that she had a natural talent, and she should cultivate her conning skills further to make a living long-term. Nikki also told her that he was the 3rd generation in a family of master con artists. Every trick and deception was in the palm of his hand. Jess, hearing this, immediately pulled out money, wanting to learn the trade. Nikki also didn't mind collecting tuition. As the two went outside, Nikki immediately put it into practice. He swiftly swiped Jess's ring, then spun her around, and her watch also vanished into thin air. While she put her watch into her handbag, the ring returned to Nikki's hand. Before Jess could recover, Nikki turned around and threw her wallet back to her, not forgetting her gym card either. The core of these tricks, simply put, is misdirection. With just a few simple moves, Nikki completely convinced Jess. He didn't rush to pull Jess into the group right away, but said goodbye to her. A few months later, Nikki rented a location in New Orleans to recruit more members and start working. As expected, Jess found him. In reality, this was an interview, also to see if Jess truly wanted to join the team. After Jess joined, Nikki had the team leader take her out. Today was a carnival, a really good opportunity for Jess to get started. As Jess walked, holding a map and asking for directions, her teammate took the opportunity to steal the other person's camera lens. Then a teammate intentionally bumped into a passerby, and Jess, walking behind, easily picked up the wallet. Seeing how easy it was, Jess became even bolder. Using chopsticks, she snatched a wallet from someone else's handbag in a second. Nikki, watching her performance from upstairs, told his teammates to stay calm, saying it was time to give Jess enough space to freely display her skills. So Jess freely demonstrated her natural talent, collecting many items, under Nikki's admiring gaze. Nikki was very satisfied with Jess's performance, so he took her to a bigger playground. No warm-up needed, they just got straight to work. To operate here, you have to be really fast, not giving them time to react. Nikki didn't explain anything to her, but let her open her eyes to high-tech gambling. Thanks to contact lenses that could see through cards, the big shot on the other side dared to go all in, only to be sent packing in one round. Besides the outrageous tricks at the gambling table, there was also credit card service. After taking a card from a pocket, it was quickly passed to a teammate who used a device to secretly read the information, then slipped the card back into the person's pocket. By the time the victim found out, the money had long been swiped clean. Even more sophisticated, they also made fake ATM overlays. After people withdrew money and left, Farhad would remove the overlay, which would have the newly entered password information. Nikki had people categorize all the stolen items. Stolen credit cards were used to buy luxury goods. Everything was eventually gathered here. During the tour, Jess spotted a necklace she intended to keep and wear. Who knew Nikki would brush it aside for safety reasons, saying, "All these things must be sold. All the spoils would be funneled into the black market for profit." Seeing a mountain of goods in front of her, Jess was completely won over by Nikki. So, her hormones surging was understandable. The next day, Jess and Farhad were chatting in a wealthy neighborhood. Of course, chatting wasn't their main objective. "All right, are you ready?" "Yes, Frank." "Oh my God, someone help me. Please hurry, help." Jess started acting. "They'll find someone to help us." The whole team began their task, acting while picking valuable items from the kind rich people. As soon as the act concluded, they got into a pre-arranged ambulance and sped away from the scene. One thief isn't scary. What's scary is an entire gang of thieves, especially when they cooperate seamlessly and use sophisticated methods. That evening, a celebration party was held. Nikki raised a glass, congratulating all his accomplices. They had netted $1.2 million in pure profit in a week. Tomorrow the team will disband on the spot. All documents will be destroyed. Once everyone gets home, they will receive their share of the profits via bank transfer immediately. That was Nikki's working principle, not mistreating any member, nor risking it all to keep everything. However, the core members knew Nikki still had unfinished business. They handed $1.2 million in cash to Nikki, then warned him in front of Jess, "Don't you dare take it and gamble it away." The next day, Nikki took the money and led Jess into the stadium's VIP room. Then he opened Jess's eyes to a spectacular performance: how to make $1 million in a few minutes. Jess at the time thought she was Nikki's official girlfriend, which was why he brought her to participate in this caper. But in reality, Nikki approached Jess from the very beginning because of today's act. Now that everything was done, Nikki didn't want to drag things out any longer. He gave Jess $80,000 and said goodbye once again. Jess turned her head back, tears welling up in her eyes. On one hand, she had truly fallen for Nikki. On the other hand, $80,000 was indeed too little. After all, in the final caper, Nikki had fleeced Li Yuan out of $1 million. To survive long-term in this profession, one absolutely could not have emotions. Time flew by. 3 years had passed. A race car pulled into a service station. Nikki appeared in the shot. It seemed the money had almost run out. At lunchtime, he had an appointment with the owner of a racing team named Garriga. His research team had developed a brand new algorithm for fuel consumption called EXR. With this system, his racing team had an 80% chance of winning the championship. To raise that 80% to 100%, Garriga needed Nikki to impersonate his chief engineer and then stage an argument. This way, the opponent would seize the opportunity and walk right into the trap. Nikki just needed to go with the flow, sell a fake EXR to the opponent, and Garriga's team would almost certainly win the championship. After succeeding, Nikki would receive €1 million as payment, and whatever the fake EXR sold for, Nikki could keep all of it because Garriga didn't need a single penny. Nikki said the task was too easy, with no difficulties at all. But Garriga's butler didn't trust Nikki much. He warned Nikki, "If you dare to pull any tricks, he'll be the first to shoot Nikki through the chest." So Nikki, dressed handsomely, attended the evening party. After circulating through the crowd, Nikki intended to stage his falling out with Garriga, who knew Jess would appear in a red dress from the staircase. Seeing her and Garriga being intimate, Nikki was stunned. His plan was completely overturned. Jess quickly approached Nikki proactively. She said she had retired, and there was no need to bring up what happened 3 years ago. Currently, she was living very happily with Garriga. Before leaving, she even warned Nikki, "Don't tell Garriga that you two know each other because Garriga knows nothing about her past." These words made Nikki furious. He chugged a glass of vodka. Nikki decided to turn the agreed-upon act into reality, and this performance not only helped Nikki vent his jealousy, but also successfully attracted the attention of the rival racing team. Nikki was thrown out by security like a drunk, but the rival racing team also managed to give him a business card. The next day, Nikki arrived on time to meet the owner of the McLaren racing team. He stated directly that he wanted to sell Garriga's program to him for €3 million, no bargaining. Race car owners weren't short on money, so they didn't waste time. They quickly went to the racetrack for a test. Looking at the data, the system was indeed effective, and the owner smiled broadly. Nikki said he would deliver the entire software system within 48 hours. Jess, meanwhile, met Farhad on the street. Nikki had sent him to speak on his behalf with Jess. Farhad said that Nikki's abrupt departure years ago was truly out of necessity, that he genuinely liked Jess, and hoped Jess would give him another chance. After saying that, Farhad gave Jess a box, and inside was the very necklace Jess liked the most. With Farhad clearing the way, Nikki's appearance would be less awkward. As for this necklace, Nikki had kept it earlier, not selling it. Or perhaps he bought a new one. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Jess was touched. Though she said she no longer trusted this con artist, in her heart, she was already won over. The transaction day quickly arrived. Nikki, on time, brought the entire software to the McLaren team owner. Then a burly guy obediently handed him 3 million euros. But with Nikki's character, he couldn't possibly just take one bite like that. He had secretly copied the entire system and sold it to all the racing teams. With every handshake, millions more euros went into his pocket. Until the race day, the teams wouldn't know that every team had this. This caper was so lucrative that Nikki was grinning. He had made tens of millions in just one day. That evening, Nikki didn't immediately sneak away from the hotel. He had messaged Jess. As long as Jess arrived on time, the two would make a clean getaway immediately. But Nikki waited and still heard no knock. Just as he was about to give up, Jess appeared. The two also had no time to waste. They had to leave immediately. But at this moment, there was a burly guy who had previously been acquiring equipment at the McLaren team. He was the one who gave Nikki 3 million euros. In reality, he was Garriga's inside man. He not only knew Nikki had sold the software to all the racing teams, but he also knew Garriga told Nikki to sell fake software. Who knew Nikki would sell the entire real software to everyone? Then he put on protective gear and sped up, crashing into Nikki's car. After the collision, the burly guy was almost unharmed, but Nikki and Jess became easy prey. All the cash was placed in front of Garriga. Nikki and Jess were tied up. Garriga also felt helpless. If it were fake software, it wouldn't matter how many teams you sold it to. But this is the real software. Garriga's 40 million euros in research money is as good as thrown into the river. Most importantly, Garriga didn't understand how Nikki got the real, encrypted software. Seeing Nikki stubbornly refusing to open his mouth, Garriga angrily pinched Jess's nose. Seeing Jess on the verge of suffocating, Nikki couldn't bear it any longer and had to concede. He said he had used Jess. Since Jess was currently Garriga's girlfriend, he had exploited their past relationship to rekindle her feelings. As long as I confirmed Jess still loved me, this would succeed. Because the necklace Jess wore home had a special chip embedded in it. As soon as Garriga opened the software at his house, I could steal Garriga's password and copy all the data. After hearing these words, Jess painfully burst into tears. But Garriga and his accomplices laughed as if it were harvest season. Garriga admitted the fabricated story made sense, but he still didn't believe it. Because Jess wasn't his girlfriend at all. She's a gold digger. A gold digger? What's going on? What is it, Jess? I was just going to steal his watch. Don't tell me you're still stealing watches. This is a Patek Philippe Imperador worth $200,000. I've been tracking him for almost a week. Who knew you'd show up? Hearing Jess say that, Nikki was utterly speechless. It turned out Jess was both stealing the watch and intentionally making Nikki jealous to get back at him. Now, isn't this great? They were both caught. Garriga didn't want to drag it out any longer. He wanted to know how Nikki had gotten the software. Nikki was about to open his mouth when suddenly the butler standing behind him fired a shot. The bullet went straight through Nikki's chest. Witnessing this scene, Garriga was terrified. Money can be earned back, but what business can you do if you've killed someone? In a panic, he immediately fired the butler and hastily fled the warehouse. Jess saw Nikki get shot and frantically panicked. Unexpectedly, the butler told her not to be afraid. It turned out the old butler was an inside man arranged by Nikki, and also Nikki's father. His bullet had precisely avoided the heart and aorta and only pierced a hole through the lung. The old butler used tape to seal the wound, and then used a large syringe to poke it and draw out blood, stabilizing the cavity pressure. Immediately after, Nikki miraculously came back to life. One has to say, this act was truly reckless. Seeing the pile of money behind them, the three hastily drove away from the scene. Nikki was an orphan, so the old butler had raised him and taught him all the skills. The original rule was not to have emotions. But now it seemed Nikki had truly fallen for Jess. So the old butler didn't prolong it, took the two of them to the roadside, and then took all the money. Nikki didn't get a single penny and almost lost his life. In the end, it was as if he worked for nothing. But on the way to the hospital, Nikki leaned down and discovered that Garriga's watch had somehow ended up on Jess's hand. They both smiled. With these skills, they wouldn't fear starving anywhere they went. Today's story ends here. Thank you all for watching the film. What do you think of this film? Please comment below.